Hello again, I'm Robert Fithen, and this is an album I've never heard before. It's, of course, Kiss and Music from the Elder from 1981. And yeah, I've actually never heard this album, heard a lot about it over the years. Used to be a huge Kiss fan when I was a kid. I mean, I made a whole video about that you can check out. But basically, I was so into Kiss. I mean, I was Peter Criss for Halloween twice. I had the Kiss guitar, I had the Kiss puzzle, I had the Kiss color forms, I had the Kiss everything. Of course, the Kiss records. Had the little Kiss suit that I still have when I was a little kid. So I still have, I can't believe I actually fit into this at one point. But yeah, so all into Kiss, all about it. Again, I was like 7, 8, years old, and they were the first band I was ever into that were a current band at the time. But somehow I leaped off the Kiss train. I don't know what happened, but somewhere between Dynasty and Unmasked, I just was like, they were done to me, and I moved on to the Beatles. And I did a whole video about all my childhood with Kiss and showed all my stuff and photos and stuff like that. So you can check out that video if you want to know more about that. I'm not going to go into great detail. But for whatever reason, I have never actually heard this album, let alone owned it. So I just got it. This is the reissue. And I do know some things about this album. Like I know it's, critically panned. I know it was a big flop for them. I know that there was a movie that was supposed to be made from this. I know that the original, they put the songs in the order. First of all, it's a concept album, and on the original version, the songs are all out of the order of the concept, so the concept makes no sense. And on this reissue, they've put the songs back in the order they were originally supposed to go in. I have heard the song A World Without Heroes. I've seen the video. I know that Gene Simmons sheds a tear with the full demon makeup on. You got crying demon at the end of it. I always thought that was absolutely absurd. So I never really wanted to explore this album, but it's always been kind of I've been curious about it, but for whatever reason, I never actually got around to listening to this album. So Kiss Music from the Elder, I thought I would actually do it and not even stream it. Just get the reissue and actually just go full in just like you would in 1981. You got the record, you're going to put it on the turntable and hear it for the very first time. So that is what I'm doing. Kiss Music from the Elder. At this point, I've never heard it, but through the magic of video editing, I am going to cut here and then give my review after I have listened to this album. Okay, so at this point, I have heard this album 5 times, both in this incarnation, and I also streamed it so I could put the tracks in the order that they were originally in, the wrong order, on the 1981 release. And so yeah, now I have heard after all these decades Kiss Music from the Elder, and yeah, it's pretty bad. Well, I originally thought maybe I would do this video and I would discover some unearthed gem from Kiss and be like, man, there's actually some great moments on here, and this is actually an underrated album, and I really like this, and I've been missing out. And so it starts off, at least this version, starts off with this fanfare that is just super wimpy and totally unnecessary. It sounds like a movie studio logo that would open a movie. And not a fanfare opening a movie, but like the studio logo music. It's just completely uninspired and just a few notes and that's it. It's totally ridiculous. It's unnecessary completely. And yes, I understand that this was supposed to be a movie. I get all that. Just a Boy is after that, and I can see that's the song where you immediately see why the record label wanted to change the order of the songs. It's not the way a Kiss album you would think would start. It's this really high falsetto from Paul Stanley, and all about this boy, just a boy, and with all this innocence, and very light stuff. And it is about this boy who's unsure and innocent and a little kid, and he's going to grow up and he's going to face these challenges to prove that he's okay for the fellowship of the elders, and he's going to, worthy of taking battle on, battling evil and all this kind of stuff. And he goes into an odyssey, and that's the next song, Odyssey, and it's got lines in it like, a child in a sundress looking at a rainy day. A child in a sundress. So that's what we're getting off of a Kiss album now. So he's going off on the Odyssey now, and I guess the original album was supposed to have like little interludes of dialogue. Thankfully, they scrapped that idea. This was actually produced by Bob Ezrin, who did the great Kiss albums like Destroyer. He actually co-produced Pink Floyd The Wall. So now there's a concept album I can get behind. And that's the thing. I realize that the concept albums, I'm not a big fan anyway, but the ones that I like are ones like The Wall and The Who's Tommy, where the concept is based more in a reality. You know, it's not like metaphorical, it's not faraway galaxy and, you know, in a time of the turtles or whatever, you know, the mutant snakes are coming, you know, whatever that is. It's not that. I like the ones that are more like, you know, the guy goes, his father died in World War II, it's based in his real life, and he goes and becomes a rock star, and it's, you know, that kind of thing. I've never been a fan of the Kilroy was here, is Styx, is one that came after 2 years after this. It's another awful album that the band even hates. And so, yeah, stuff like that, not a fan of, so I'm kind of biased on this anyway, going into it. But yeah, so you get, you know, you get that one. You get Only You is decent. It kind of sounds a little unfinished, almost like a demo. That's the thing about Ace Frehley's guitar playing in here as well. He kind of sounds bored in a lot of these songs, like just. There's none of that cool, like, you know, squealing like those awesome Ace Frehley riffs from earlier albums, or they're just not here. It's just a lot of you know, kind of stuff like that, which is the highlight of the album basically is Ace Frehley's guitar playing. I'm definitely going to say that. But for his standards on other albums, he kind of sounds like he might be a little bit bored and just disinterested on this, which of course he does eventually leave. Peter Criss is gone by here. We get Eric Carr on the drums. And so, yeah, we got, you know, Dark Light is the Ace song on here. And it's okay. It's one of the highlights of the album. It's great to hear Ace's voice. But again, stacking it up to the other Ace Frehley albums, or Kiss songs from Ace Frehley, you know, doesn't really hold up a lot. Again, sounds like there needs to be a little more of a riff going on. The Oath is the best song on here. Change it the lyrics, make it about sex, make it about a hot chick or something, and it probably would have been a hit single. You're not going to get a hit single called The Oath, and with those, you know, themes coming off of a concept album, but musically it's the best song on here. Paul Stanley's vocals on this album are a little bit wrong, I think, for this. They kind of have this wavering echo effect, and they're kind of pushed back, so they don't sound great. But yeah, Escape from the Island is great. You know, it's an instrumental. I think if they would have put some killer lyrics on that, that could have been a big single. That could have been a big part of this album, but it's a nice instrumental. Then there's the song Mr. Blackwell that is on here. That's kind of a departure from the rest of the album. I don't even know if it's part of the concept or not. It seems like a departure. It's about this guy named Mr. Blackwell. I don't know if it's the Mr. Blackwell they're talking about. The Mr. Blackwell I've heard of is it used to be like the fashion critic back in this time. He used to come out with the worst dress lists, and you did not want to be on Mr. Blackwell's worst dress list. Maybe he put Kiss on there, and they're very upset. But they're telling him that he's not well, and they know it, and he can go to hell, and he's not human, and not fit to be a human, or something like that. I don't know. It's just kind of there. But yeah, Mr. Blackwell. And then I is the song that wraps it up with that, you know, beat, kind of like a really cranked up Adamant or something like that. I believe in me, and I believe in things that, you know. It's like the lyrics though. Again, it's all about these lyrics. It sounds like something that the Hulkamaniacs would be, you know, Hulk Hogan would have put out for the Hulkamaniacs, or Mr. T. You know, those albums that came out that were supposed to really inspire children to believe in themselves, and they can go do anything, and I can accomplish, you know. It doesn't, I don't know. At this point, Kiss, here's the thing, okay, and I get it. The I Believe in Me is the character, and the I don't care. The thing about this came out in 1981. I would have been 9 years old when this came out. So I guess I was actually 6 when I started listening to Kiss, not 7. So I would have been 9. And I don't even think I would have liked it then. I think it would have been too hokey for me even as a 9-year-old. It didn't even mention A World Without Heroes, for God's sakes, which Cher actually remade in 1991. that was the song I was familiar with. The video, like I said, with Gene Simmons in full makeup and a tear running down his face and A World Without Hero is this wimpy piano ballad that had lyrics contributed by Lou Reed. Lou Reed helped write lyrics on like 3 of the songs on here. That was the song they decided to release as a single. What? Okay, anyway, so, okay, here's my thing. This came out in 1981. And the thing I keep hearing is, well, Kiss had to change up their sound. They had to move with the times. They had to try this new wave thing, and they were going in a little bit of a different direction. They had to. Did they? I don't think they had to. I don't think they had to at all. It was 1981, and everybody's talking about new wave, new wave. I think there's a little bit of revisionist history when it comes to that, especially in the Midwest. Maybe new wave was a huge thing in 1981 in other parts of the world. I'm sure in the U.S. On the coasts, but in the heart of, in the middle of the country, in the Midwest, places where Kiss was huge. Like, they started off their career by blowing up in Michigan. They were huge in the Midwest. What were the huge rock albums? Think about this. What were the huge rock albums in 1981? AC/DC, Back in Black, still a holdover from 1980, still huge in 81. And then they come out with Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. First U.S. release of this, a 70s album in Australia, but finally gets released in the U.S., so it's like a new album here, 1981. Following it up with a proper new album in 1981 for those about to rock, AC/DC On Fire in 1981. Huge. REO Speedwagon, probably definitely one of the biggest rock albums of the year. High Infidelity, all over the radio, blowing up, platinum. Everybody has this. REO Speedwagon, huge in 1981. Billy Squier, Don't Say No. Blockbuster album. My brother even had this. The Stroke and Lonely as the Night, My Kind of Lover, In the Dark. I mean, singles all over the radio. Boom. Foreigner, 4. Huge breakthrough album for these guys. Urgent and Jukebox Hero, Waiting for a Girl Like You. Boom. Absolutely huge. Journey's Escape, huge. Don't Stop Believing's on here. Stone in Love. Who's Crying Now is the ballad. Rolling Stones are back in form with Tattoo You, even though this was kind of an album full of stuff that was recorded a lot earlier. But Start Me Up, drives this album with the big guitar riff and everything. Waiting for a Friend, kind of a more mellow thing. But yeah, Tattoo You was huge for the Rolling Stones. They went off on that huge tour. 1981, that was what was big in the Midwest. That was just basic rock stuff. And what do all those albums have in common? They're all 3.5, 4-minute, just rock and roll songs, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Not so much drugs, I guess, more like drinking. Sex, drinking, rock and roll. 3.5, 4 minutes, boom, boom, boom. No big, long album tracks, no big, long 7, 8 minute long chord changes, experimentation, we're going to reinvent the wheel. Just basic rock stuff. And then sometimes, like with REO Speedwagon, Keep On Loving You, Waiting for a Girl from Foreigner, and Who's Crying Now from Journey, you would have that mellow song so they could get on the adult contemporary, a little more of a lighter format, and drive that album sales with the hit single. So Kiss, think about the music that Kiss was putting out in the 70s. That's the kind of stuff they were putting out. They were kind of ahead of the curve. If Love Gun or like Detroit Rock City, songs like that would have come out in 81, they would have been huge. Why didn't Kiss just do what they had done before? Now, like rock music had finally caught up with them. They were doing that stuff, just the blast rock out 3.5, 4-minute stuff in the 70s. If they would have put that out in 81, that would have been a huge album. Like Creatures of the Night came out the next year. If this would have had if it would have had a power ballad, like, Keep On Loving You or something, and it would have had a couple of more kind of sex-driven, just party rock songs on here, and this would have come out in 81, this would have been huge. This would have been another platinum album for Kiss. But they put out Music for the Elder and then put this out, so a lot of people had said, I'm done with Kiss. If they would have had stuff on, they zigged when they should have. They shouldn't have done any zigzagging. They should have just stayed with the course. Kiss would have been huge, but they did the exact wrong thing. They went in the exact wrong direction. Wrong lyrics, wrong concept, wrong wrong. If they would have been true to themselves and just kept churning out the sex, drinking, rocking, partying songs, a little more adult. We don't, not like necessarily like I Love It Loud, where they're still like, it's a kid, I'm gonna crank it up, I don't care what my parents think. They should have like done like the AC/DC thing and been a little more like, all right, I'm not a little kid anymore. I'm in my early 20s or I'm in my late teens. I know how to fuck now. I've been fucking for a couple of years and I'm getting good at fucking. I'm going to go out to the bar. I'm going to drink with my friends. I'm going to pick somebody up. I'm going to take them home and I'm going to fuck them really good. I know how to fuck like a man now. If they would have had some songs on here like that, and then of course the power ballad like, oh, now I'm going to fuck you a little more gentle because I'm in love, baby. Boom. That would have been a huge album. But they didn't do that. They came out with this, the boy turns into a man and he's going off on an odyssey and the realm of the elders will accept him to take the challenge in the galaxy far away. It's just so frustrating to hear that because what could have been. And I guess it started off an idea with their coked up manager just, let's come up with a concept album, you're going to go with the Warlords, you're going to be with the futuristic. And it's really just too bad. Because, it's just like one of those things, it's like, what could have been if they would have just been like, we're Kiss. It's our time now. It's 1981. Listen to what's coming out. Because this didn't come out until November of 81. So all these other albums were already out and blowing up. If they would have just been like, man, our sound is like blowing up right now that we were doing in the 70s. We should just do another album and just put some more like adult sex themes on there and double entendres and killer guitar riffs and boom. But they didn't do that. They did music from the Elder. And now I've finally heard it. This came out right after MTV launched. Now, that happened in August of 81. And, some people that weren't around at the time seem to think that when MTV hit the airwaves, August 1st, 1981, that it just exploded. Everybody had it. It changed music immediately. And I don't really think that's the way it was. I mean, when MTV was first on, it was only in a few markets, and not everybody could have it, and not everybody had cable anyway, like my family, and, it was a slow-growing thing. But by the mid-'80s, MTV was huge. It was definitely influential over how music was perceived, especially rock music. And all these bands started blowing up, like Poison and Cinderella and Twisted Sister, who had been out for a while, blew up. Motley Crue, all these bands with this, these 3.5, 4 minute hard rocking songs about partying, about, having a good time, nothing but a good time. And, they had these big stage shows. They were wearing like, crazy clothes and makeup. And, well, does that sound familiar? Yeah, that's what Kiss had been doing for like a decade. So, it could have been a time for Kiss to blow up, again. But what do? They take off their makeup. I mean, who's making the decisions for this band? But yeah, I mean, obviously it was a different kind of makeup, but still, I think this threw people off. One thing I can say though is this pressing sounds really good and it's very quiet. There's no pops and clicks and it sounds kind of, there's no problem with the sound. I mean, the production leaves a little to be desired, but as far as the mastering on here, it sounds great. And so, yeah, like I said, I wanted to end it on a positive note, best I could do. Kiss, music from the Elder. Now I've heard it. I'm Robert Fithen. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will talk to you again soon. The boy turns into a man.